You're right, Zed is weak. It is intentional. Zed must be kept weak because he is the most frustrating champion in League of Legends.
It's official. Zed is being kept intentionally weak. This is something that players have long suspected Riot does to certain champs, but since we heard it from an official Riot dev last week, some players have been up in arms. So, Riot August is a lead designer for League of Legends who, over the years, has been responsible for a number of iconic champion designs and reworks. If you play Vi, Jinx, Echo, Senna, Viego, Bel'Veth, Briar, Nard, Zeri, or Jhin, then you have August to thank. The same goes for the reworks of Rengar, Kayle, Janna, Taliyah, Morgana, as well as parts of the reworks of Jax and Wukong. To put it quite simply, this guy has been responsible for how tens of millions of players play the game. His Twitter game is really strong too, whether he's posting self-deprecating tweets about his dev work or sharing a lot of funny clips on Twitter of certain fixes for champions. He's grown to be an absolute fan favorite in the League community. He is also someone that has streamed quite a lot over the past few years. His stream has become a place where he talks candidly about kit designs and any past or planned changes to champions. And recently he shared something pretty eye-opening about one champion in particular on stream, Zed. Now, if you've been playing the game at all this year, you'll know that Zed has become quite a problem in recent months. His ban rate was sitting at almost 40%, thanks in large part to big changes to assassin items. Zed players were stacking ability haste items, abusing Ravenous Hydra, and maxing W to essentially turn him into an AD mage, able to spam Living Shadow, which made his laning phase extremely uninteractive to play against, and his late game like trying to grab a fish with soapy hands.
What did I just die to? What the f*** is that?
After some nerfs to Duskblade and Zed's W, some Zed players felt the champion had been gutted beyond repair, but everyone else was quite happy to drink the tears of Zed players after the champion had been such a ubiquitous menace in their game for months. And recently, one of these unhappy Zed players brought their concerns directly to Riot August while he was streaming. Maybe they thought he would take pity on Zed. Maybe they thought August would share some Zed buffs that Riot had planned, but his reply was far from that.
You're right, Zed is weak. It is intentional. Zed must be kept weak because he is the most frustrating champion in League of Legends. And so for all of eternity, Zed will probably be slightly weaker than he should be.
Now look, we've all had our suspicions that Riot are reluctant to tweak certain champions. Some of them are notoriously difficult to balance. Maybe their kit or base numbers are already so strong that any minor changes Riot makes to their abilities or the items that they usually build causes them to become disgustingly broken. Maybe buffing them to be good for the average solo queue player causes the esports scene to completely blow up because pros can maximize those buffs to the absolute extreme. I'm looking at you, Yumi. But it's rare to hear a Rioter say that not only is the company aware that a champion is weaker than it should be, but that it will stay that way for eternity. That's pretty heavy. Grandmaster Zed streamer Weeboo Slayer captured the shock from Zed mains who couldn't believe a Riot employee had admitted the company intentionally keeps Zed weaker. He also complained that Riot's determination to reduce Zed bans in low elo were making it impossible for him to climb in Grandmasters. Others felt Riot was being straight up hypocritical here, pointing to champions like K'Sante, who has undergone a bunch of changes in his first year to address players' issues with him. Now, I saw some people saying this is because K'Sante is just a much newer champion. Riot want to make things work on these new releases. That they don't want new champions to be poorly balanced and then discarded by the community for being too weak or because Riot nerfed them to the ground. Perhaps this iteration of Zed, this concept we have now, is just unworkable. Another thing that some Zed players have been pushing back with is his win rate. It's been under 50% across all ranks for the entire year. So why is a champion that is losing the majority of its games being kept intentionally weak? Well, one theory is that Riot doesn't always balance around win rates, they balance around ban rates. Sure, it's not fun to get battered by an absolutely broken champion, but sometimes a champion is statistically average by win rate, but still incredibly frustrating to play against. That frustration can manifest itself in a number of different ways. Angry posts on Reddit, Twitter threads, video rants, all of that can be quite hard to quantify, but ban rates are not. In June 2019, Riot released a blog post in which they outlined their criteria for balancing champions. It said that for the bulk of players, they aim to nerf a champion if they have an extremely high win rate and a lower than average ban rate, stated by them to be around 7%, or a slightly high win rate coupled with a ban rate 5 times the average. By this metric, Zed is kind of technically balanced. He might not be perfect, but he doesn't meet the criteria for a buff or a nerf. So is a lead developer right by saying he is the most frustrating champion in the game?
So one of the Zed's issues is that he has unclear counterplay to lower skilled players in regards to what you're supposed to do against him with his laning pattern.
So for August, it kind of sounds like it's a skill issue. Similar to the Yuumi problem, August feels that Zed is simply a champion that low elo players just don't know how to play against. And he's saying that instead of them learning how to counter Zed in and out of lane, low elo players are just banning him instead. If that's true, I don't really think you can blame the players. That's kind of his whole shtick. His whole kit is designed for him to appear, delete another player, and then just disappear. Kind of like Akali. For a lot of people, that is simply unfun and uninteractive to play against. And even if he does mess up a combo, he can always just zip back to a distant shadow. When August says Zed is the most frustrating champion in the game, he's saying they simply don't like playing against him, regardless of his true strength.
You look at it and it's actually got a lot of counterplay, which by the way makes him weak in high MMR. He ults you and then there's like 3 seconds for like you can run away, you can get shielded, you can heal, etc, etc, etc. But to especially a low MMR player who's getting ulted by Zed, the experience is he ults me, he does he blinks away, and then puts on his sunglasses and goes, "Cool guys don't look at explosions," and walks away and you explode, right? And you're like, that wasn't fair.
And it's that sense of fairness that I think is key here. Zed might not be the strongest champion in the game, but he feels unfair to play against. Is this fixable? August says that Zed will never be buffed again, but surely this can't be the end of it. I think it's much more likely that Zed players can expect a complete rework in 2024. Or maybe with the power of ability haste being reduced in Season 14, Riot might want to take another look at him. Either way, something needs to be done in order to help the most frustrating champion in the game. I think if they do end up changing Zed and they end up reworking him, people will look back at that Faker clip. Faker, what was that? I'd be like, what was this champion? How is this a champion allowed in the game? That's crazy. Like, it's the kind of champion, I think if Zed came out now, people wouldn't be happy. People would be like, what is this? This looks insane.